watched him over at the Encounter Group. I watched him wherever he goes, bring hundreds, thousands across the planet into what's happening. This is how I heard from his partner, Corin Smith and Onika Best. And Janae's over there shaking her head because she was blessed to meet them as we went to the LA org. And they came in from Bermuda. And they knew the United Hood Nation story. At least to the degree I knew it, if not better. Because he, Andrew, as he's doing now, broadcast, and I would be surprised if Corin wasn't watching this live right now.
Well, so far we have people from South Africa and from Bermuda, but not Corin yet. Not
Corin. But since it will be recorded and displayed, people can go back and watch it anytime they want to. This is the reach, and this is a sister I met yesterday over in Leimert that is about that as well. Understanding the technology and the reach and the currentness of the internet as we're doing what we're doing unites us in a way that has yet to happen all over the planet. So anyways, in just a second, I'm gonna take the camera from him and record him talking about his understanding and knowledge about the United Hood Nation, where this is going, what 5 Points Youth Foundation's role is in this whole piece, what they're doing, because even Brad Carson is well connected to that same source of the LA Trade Tech, Global Business Incubation, all of what Andrew has been a part of for at least the last 10 years or so, and leading right up into him being involved with this United Hood Nation. And there was a meeting with the gangs only a year ago on Wednesday, which everybody couldn't get into that meeting. Andrew got into it and streamed it, and people around the world were saying, when can I hear more about that United Hood Nation meeting? When Minister Tony went to traveling with the vaccines right after this, they said, well, that's fine, but we want to hear about the United Hood Nation. What's happening with that? This is the global reach. And in Bermuda, Corin said, man, what Minister Farrakhan, the nation, Scientology, and Bloods and Crips and the gangs, he said, man, whatever y'all are doing, it affects us in our backyard in Bermuda. And we're watching America. We see Trump and all that, but we're watching what's happening in the United Hood Nation as a sense of hope, a sense of a barometer of the temperature of what's happening, because they relate to it in Bermuda in a deep, deep way. It's a very, very amazing place. I'm learning from Corin and Onika about Bermuda and how the world uses Bermuda as a corporate grounds to a lot of money. I think the average income and the low income, the average income is $50,000. You're poor. If you make less than $50,000, you're poor. You know what I mean? But so if you make $50,000, you're poor. You're right on the borderline of poor. But that's a very affluent area. But you got a lot of money. But then at the core of the moral basis, the integrity, the ethics, I'm looking at the way to happiness, and same thing with the nation. This is that common ground that the minister I know recognizes. Or what's going on here is you got an ethical, high ethical standard group. That without that, I don't care how much money you throw at this problem in these inner cities, if the ethics is not in, if the spirit is not right, if they don't have a certain base where they're coming from, and you can get it in a lot of places, but the doingness though, after you go to church on Sunday, feeling good, what do you do now? Day to day. So there's some programs and things that I know needed to be highlighted, and I know the ladies have to leave soon. But having said that, I think it's a great time to hear from Andrew briefly about the United Hood Nation, the history of what he saw and lived through 2 years ago.
Okay, well, I've been inviting people to join us. So many are still joining, but as you turn around and
let them see everybody.
Yeah, yes, you can.
Got to see you. Okay.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Andrew Williams Jr. and another Conversations with Andrew Williams Jr. And this time it'll be streamed on Universal Citizens Media Network, UCIT.TV, as well as those joining us on Facebook Live. We're here at the Los Angeles, Vermont Community Center with the Church of Scientology at 8039 South Vermont Avenue. and we're inviting everyone to come and find out about the community services that are available here. I'm very proud to say that we are in a place that launched what is now known worldwide as the United Hood Nation on July 16th, I believe it was, 2016, when there were 3,000 people outside and 300 people inside, including Mr. Khalid Shaw, who will be the next person coming up. Brad Carson, who's not here, actually invited me to come in at that time to fulfill the role that I have been doing since 2000 as the Zero-Time Solutions Facilitator for Global Business Incubation. And so that's why I was here then, and that's why I'm here now. So with that, I will say that August 11th was not only the launch date of what we now know as the Watts riots here in Los Angeles, but unfortunately yesterday was also the commemoration of the events last year that found Heidi Hines was killed last year at Charlottesville. So we are now in a time of wishing peace in our streets. And that's what the community asked us to do here. They asked us first to have unity amongst ourselves, even before jobs, even before peace, even before literacy. First, unity. And that meant not just stop the gangbanging between the gangs and the police, but also between the churches and denominations as well. So this group here represents, I think, a cross-section of that. So with that, I would like to say that Mr. Khalid Shah is going to be the next person up, and then perhaps we can introduce each other, introduce yourselves, maybe a minute or two. And then we're also graced to have Mr. Doug Williams with us as well. If you could pan to Doug Williams, please.
Sure. That's Doug.
Thank you. Well, actually, it's his work that began in early 2000s that resulted in the $30 million that the International Association of Scientology spent to have the Inglewood and Vermont Community Center founded right here, right now. So we're pleased and proud to have him here. And so I'd like for us, if we could, again, Mr. Shaw, please tell us who you are, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you. I'm Khalid Shaw, founder and executive director of Stop the Violence Policing Peace Foundation.
Yeah, let's change places so I can get closer.
And co-chairs of the United Hood Nation. I want to first start off by thanking the Scientology church members, brilliant people that I've had a chance to meet here at this facility. Thank them for hosting that meeting that day. You know, the United Hood Nation got its formal start on the 16th, but on the 15th, that Saturday, which is really interesting, was the day that we actually held a march in the Athens Park community where we had thousands, I mean literally thousands of ex-gang members, law enforcement, community-based agencies, clergy, folks that came together to walk through the Athens community, dealing with the issue of stopping the violence and increasing the peace. Minister Tony was there, and we had a chance to talk, and he invited us here at the community center on the 16th, and we all actually came out on the 16th, and there was a coming together of that whole situation, you know, adding thousands more to that movement. Brother Danny Bakewell, Snoop, some of the other celebrities were all here, and we made a commitment not only to talk, as brother just said, not only to stop the violence in the streets, but more importantly, stop the violence in our hearts between churches, community-based agencies, government agencies, and other folks, because we were getting the word from folks on the street that, you know, how can you stop the violence, tell us to stop the violence in the streets when you guys are gangbanging on a whole nother level. So that, we also talked about education, which was absolutely important, and bringing that issue together, and then economic development. The beauty in this whole movement for me is that 2 years later, we're still here. Folks are in their silos growing. October the 11th of 2018, I'm going to be inviting all of you to an event at the California African American community where we're going to have thousands of folks honoring the peacemakers, including United Hood Nation, politicians and other folks. So I just want to say to Brother Andrew, to Brother Remus, to all of you here, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, brother, for your vision. Thank Minister Tony, thank Minister Farrakhan for his inspiration. My brother Danny Bakewell, who is not here, and let me say something about that brother, who's a close friend, but more importantly, a colleague in this struggle. A person who, when I asked, man, I need to go over in Inglewood to take care of business, I need to go over in Watts to take care of business, I need to go to Riverside, San Bernardino, Azusa, Hemet, throughout the region, made available to us through either personal donations and or through other contacts, millions of dollars to make sure that at the end of the day, the young people didn't think that we were just talking a good talk, but we were really walking a good walk. Right. And so they came to the table, and they came to the table, and we got jobs, and we got them to the table talking about peace. So I want to thank my brother for his involvement, because we're all busy. I'm running around trying to retire. But at the end of the day, that I know that there is no retirement from this world. So I want to thank you again humbly, and my brother, keep doing what you're doing, and God bless all of you, and thank you for being at the table.
Thank you. And definitely, let's hear from Doug Williams now.
Just one moment. Let me do a station break, if I could.
Okay.
This is Andrew Williams Jr. again. I do want to also follow up what Remus Muhammad mentioned about Bermuda, because it was actually in 2009 when Minister Farrakhan was called to Bermuda, because even though they had the highest per capita income in the Western Hemisphere, they also had the highest rate of gun death of young black men in Bermuda. And so the minister went there in 2009, and it was in 2010 when he did an outreach, to the rest of the world for us to come to Scientology to get that technology that's needed for the streets. So I just wanted to insert that as we move forward to introduce now Doug Williams.
I want to say this real quickly. If you could just speak to, and Andrew kind of did a great intro, you're at a high level called OT something, 8. Very, very significant earning and dedication to learning and studying. But prior to that, Juan Bogan, yourself, many of the others, Andrea, whoever was involved with the idea to put an org in the black community, in the inner cities. I think that was the original thought. You know the story better than I do, but if you could share some of that and whatever else is on your heart and how you see what the United Hood Nation is doing. And I know it comes down to your vision. You saw this day. You saw that there would be what you saw years ago, many decades ago. Not to put you out there, I know you look like you're 28, but I gotta keep it real. Every day in the streets, and when you're doing the right things, I guess it doesn't age. That's right. But anyway, just if you could talk about how you feel.
Okay, good, very good. Yeah. The secret is, when I reached age 50, I started counting my age backwards. and then I'll wait till I get too young, then I'll go forward again. Now, a little history on an organization, Scientology organization ending up in Inglewood, is that around 1987, Patricia Harris has a physical rehabilitation business right here, right on Prairie, not far from the Forum. And she knew that I was a public speaker and a long-time Scientologist, and so she asked me, said, would you come out? She said, how much would you charge me to come out and give lectures in the lobby of my business about Scientology? And I told her, I said, I won't charge you anything. I'll be glad to do that, And so that was the beginning of it. And we would meet there, and I would give a lecture on marriage, on parenting, sometimes on education, and a few other things. But that was the beginning of it. You had some people who cared. There was Patricia Harris, Carolyn Harrison, and myself. And then pretty soon, Juan was working as a staff member at Los Angeles organization of the Church of Scientology. And then eventually, in a magnificent coup, I don't know how he pulled it off, but he got to be on staff at Inglewood, and then Carolyn Percy was the executive director for a while, and then Juan became the executive director.
This is when it was a mission, am I correct?
Right, right.
It didn't become an org until 2011.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. It was exactly right. It was a mission for several years, and we we did what we could. We worked out of a little storefront over there on Market Street, right, and a couple of other places. And one of the things that I bring to an activity such as this, with the length of time that I've been in Scientology for 44 years, and I've gone through a lot of the training and a lot of the counseling and so forth that the church provides, is that I can sometimes align the work and the technology that L. Ron Hubbard developed that applies exactly to what we're doing right now, the steps that we're taking right now. There's a book by L. Ron Hubbard, and the title is 88008. 88008.
Could you
This book, and on page 47 of that book, paragraph 2, L. Ron Hubbard talks about the lowest form of thought. And people all over the world, many people are trapped in the lowest form of thought. And I'll give you an example of that. You can see a person walking their dog on a leash down the street. And the dog will walk by people, and yeah, this is the book. This is the book here. And the dog will just look at other people, but if they see another dog on a leash, the dog will rear up and start to want to fight, because that's the level of thought that dog is operating off of. You see? Now, by the same token, I'm not saying that people are dogs, but we are affected by the level of thought that we're thinking at. And when you're thinking at a certain level of thought, you think that's it. There's no level higher than that. But on page 47 of this book, he explains how people are causing trouble in life because they're at such the lowest level of thought. What you're doing in this group, you've risen above that level of thought. You see, because you're not thinking that, okay, I'm opposed to her because she's a woman and I'm a man, because she's white and I'm black. You're thinking like, okay, what do we have in common? What problems do we have in common? What solutions do we have that could come together and solve those problems? You see, that's a higher level of thought. And I want to point that out to you, that you are doing the right thing, and back it up with the actual scientific research that demonstrates that you are doing the right thing. You're growing and you're helping the community to grow, and it's actually spreading globally. And I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge that. That's a very, very important thing that you're doing. I know that you know it's important. That's why you're spending the time on it. But I want to bring my experience, all my years of experience, to actually indicate to you exactly what you're doing, and it's exactly the right thing to do right now. Thank you.
Well, sir, I'm going to take the editor's privilege, and I'm going to skip over you, and I'm going to come back to you, because actually it's Barbara Anderson that I'd like to spotlight next.
And let me say this about Barbara, because we met Barbara a few days ago, and maybe about a month, 5 weeks ago, and we connected because Andrew, like I said, and he's been on staff, and he's been the most active, doing something in the community person, a godsend, because all of us bring certain elements that each of us individually don't bring. But I tell you, when he showed up now, the anchoring of the community and the work and the world and the MERT and just so much. But when he connected literally with Barbara, who's the West CLO, I'm messing up, the Continental Liaison Office for the West United States over ABLE. And next to her, you'll meet Zaynada in a minute over iHelp. That ABLE, she'll speak to real quickly, but when that happened, now the connection to the planet began to really kick in. And now LA now could connect to the rest of the world, and the rest of the world could connect back to LA with what's happening. So just wanted to introduce Barbara a little bit better.
Excuse me.
Well, thank you very
Pedro,
much.
I need to change seats with you, please. I want to make sure I get the sound as accurate as I can. I need to sit here. Just a moment.
Okay,
I need to
you
sit
wanna
here.
sit
Yes.
Here? Okay.
Hello there.
Hi.
Speak to the world and us at the same time.
Yeah. I know, right? Anyways, my name is Barbara Anderson. I've been working with ABLE, which stands for Association for Better Living and Education, for 26 years. I was looking for something that I could find that was lifting up people. I was working before I found these technologies, giving massage or talking to them, and I would also bring them up, but they were always a little bit chippier in the end when I'd been there, and then I came back and they were, and it was always like this for 5 years, and I grew tired of why can't they not stay better and happier? So then I found this technology, and people started applying it to their lives, and I saw there was actually a change within them. They were happier, they were more able beings, able to do better things in society. So I've been working with these technologies then for all these years because simply it works.
Now ABLE itself, you actually have several separate entities underneath them.
That's right.
And I understand that those are what's called, in our case, Fourth Dynamic Solutions. Or could you explain how that works?
It's a social betterment programs.
Okay.
And it's a Narcanon. It's a non-religious, it's a drug-free drug rehab and alcohol program that helps people get off drugs. Applied scholastics through education brings up societies, help kids learn, tutoring, etc. The Way to Happiness, Common Sense Guide for Better Living, exists in 117 languages, by the way. And we have then Criminon, which is criminal reform and rehabilitation. So all these 4 groups bring something to the society, or we can do something with that in society. And I would love to help spread it, getting into the groups, or show what we can do with it. So that's why I'm here, and I feel privileged to be part of this.
Well, I know you only mentioned 4, but actually there, even though it's the fourth dynamic, there are actually 5 legs to that, and one of them is volunteer ministry. I know that you're not an expert on that, but could you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. It does not fall within ABLE because it's actually volunteer minister, meaning that it's with the Church of Scientology, but it's an activity that anyone can do, go out in society and help people, uplift them. We go out in when there's very stressful environment, like now with the fires, we're sending out people to help the firemen, or like 9/11, or all these disasters. We always have people that come in on their own free will, not getting paid. They go to these disaster areas and they help out in whatever is needed and wanted.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
One more musical chair. Zenaida, it's your turn now.
Yeah, let
I
me
need
just say
to
a
get-
little bit about Zenaida from Puerto Rico. Zenaida's over a group called AHIABGA, and again, part of what I wanted to do this year, Brother Shaw, was to start some things and know the community. And this is again the introduction to a week-long worth of activities.
Well, actually, the beginning of a week-long that stretches out for an entire year, because the
That
idea.
part too, right. And that week, as Andrew just pointed out, the vision is for the next year, what we'll be about. So when we have the 3rd annual United Hood Nation meeting, we'll have a whole lot more to report on October. I'm excited about that. And as Andrew was just mentioning, there's a whole Youth for Human Rights piece, which is a part of the 4th dynamic programs that are here. And that's what it's so beautiful to learn, that there is an ABLE group in the West United States, Continental Liaison Office, that runs all the West United States for the Churches of Scientology. And what they do is social betterment. And then iHelp is another piece. And then there's these 4th dynamic programs. You know, you've got 5 of them, but the 4th dynamic meaning programs that help. And then so you've got the Youth for Human Rights, you've got the Way to Happiness as a part of that, you've got a drug-free world as a part of that, you've got, is it Applied Scholastics? No.
The Citizen Commission on
Citizens
Human
Commission
Rights.
on Human Rights, and then the volunteer ministry is a part of these. These are the 5 different groups that are under the 4th dynamic programs. Then you've got iHelp, and they do a lot of great stuff in some real life improvement courses and things like that. So maybe Zenaida now can speak to what the Church of Scientology does through iHelp and how they get out into the community for those that aren't having to do it under some religious umbrella, just helping the community with different things that does.
is Zenaida, and I'm responsible for the Western United States. The organization is called iHelp, and that stands for International Hubbard Ecclesiastical League of Pastors, because obviously those individuals that I deal with are applying the technology outside of the church. It is religious in nature. and they actually get trained up as ministers, and they're trained up fully on the technologies of Dianetics and Scientology. And it's interesting that you mentioned the volunteer ministers, because that originally was under iHelp. And what happened was it grew and grew and grew so much that it actually became its own organization and its own group. And so what I'm responsible for is getting individuals applying the technology of Dianetics and Scientology to their lives and to others, again, outside of the church. I have hundreds of members in the Western United States. A lot of them go ahead and deliver this, and they actually earn a living doing this and helping others. And so if you had a situation and you needed assistance, then somebody would go to you, and they would actually deliver assistance and help to you. And then if you had something, they travel all over across the United States and beyond. And so the purpose that I'm here for is to connect up with all of you, let you know that this service is available. There are individuals. We form up groups so that we can better help the area and the community with whatever they need.
Can you speak to, I know there's like 5 or 6 major bullet points of like a personal efficiency course.
Right. So an individual can deliver a course called Personal Efficiency. It raises the efficiency of an individual, their business, whatever they're applying it to. And an individual can get trained on that, and they can start delivering in the community, and they can start raising the production in the community as a result of this technology. It's based off a book called Problems of Work that L. Ron Hubbard wrote. Then also there's life improvement courses. These courses are very, very simple technology written by L. Ron Hubbard, and an individual can do that in all the different areas of life. If you wanted to get tools, better tools for your workplace and so forth, there's a course that deals with that. If you have all the different individuals that you deal with, let's say they need better organization, there's effective time management course that you could do. If you were looking at, improving relationships with others, there's technology on that. So the individuals that are part of iHelp can actually go out to any area and deliver those courses. Again, for the community, to businesses and so forth. And then there's also another part as far as groups that use the technology contained in books written by L. Ron Hubbard, and they form groups. They're not doing it for any sort of income or anything. They're just doing it to help.
Yeah. There's a whole, thank you so much, Anita. And as this whole thing, again, I wanted people to know that I wasn't able to get Wise here, but we'll see if we can get them here this week. There's a whole technology on just administration of life, to administer anything, to manage anything effectively. There's a whole, if you look around, you see the building, you see the spot in Inglewood, you see any of the Scientology orgs, if nothing else, they are well organized. They're modern, right down to the modern time, and there's a reason for that. It doesn't just happen. There's an actual guidance to make that happen. Whatever church, organization, anything you're running, run better, there's a whole technology on that. And the duplication of it. One thing that we're good at in the black community, from my vantage point, I can speak to it because I'm raised in it, is we start a lot of things. But we seem to have a bit of a problem with finishing things and having enough ideas, technology, understanding to keep that thing going. You know what I mean? And that's where I know we could stand to gain a lot from what is done inside of here. And so that was a piece. And understand, everybody, that all week, Zenaida has agreed to come back on Monday, tomorrow, from, was it 9 to 11?
10 to 2, something.
10 to 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I take that back. Somebody else I'm thinking about. That was Joni. So maybe on a different day. But the whole idea was, now for those that want to learn more about what Zenaida has just shared today, they can come back now and get more into details with that from 10 to 2 tomorrow. She'll be available. We have some phenomenal footage and different little clips, 30 seconds here, just to be, and some testimonies about what that is, and along with other people. So this is the way this has been set up. And I know that Barbara with Abel has agreed to come back on Wednesday. Was it 8:30 or so, 9 in the morning, or be available probably around 10 for her piece. Again, 10 to whatever time Barbara can stick around for. And now other people in the community that aren't here yet, that I know they're on their way, do things. A gentleman named Rodney Brown. He's involved with homelessness and actual housing. And there's a lot of programs. And inside what he does, he needs programs to deliver. As Brother Khalid Shaw, I know, has been in the trenches with these conversations as well, of wanting to and actually doing things with people to solve real-time situations. You know, some people have stepped up for many years and have been housing people and calling somebody at 1, 2 in the morning, whatever day of the week it is, and making things happen, a safe place to go, or somebody that can just come talk to somebody. And that's been happening. And I'm excited about that having even reassuring itself even more with the unity of that. And that's what I'm so excited about LA Trade Tech. I believe that my man here spoke for the first time at LA Trade Tech in the Encounter Group, because he's a student. And I want to just segue that into letting Coach R.T. Maddox, affectionately known as R.T., and Coach, but speak to what he does, why he's here, and what's on his heart.
Okay, so my name is R.T. Maddox, Coach R.T. Maddox.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
I've been working in the community with the youth.
Just a moment, please.
The world is
Hollywood
wants
break.
to hear every word you say.
Hollywood do-over. Your name, and if you have a website or anything you want to tell people or any of that stuff.
No website. There's a few websites actually, because my name is R.T. Maddox, better known as Coach Maddox. I work in the community with the youth. I've been doing this since 2005. Encouraging young men to continue their education. In the inner city, we have a high percentage of high school dropouts. So myself and the groups that I work with, we encourage the young men and women to continue school and go, and try to, get into college. We provide assistance with SAT tutorings. We also provide assistance with tutoring and things of that nature. It's been a long journey. It's tough working with the kids in the inner city, dealing with the parents and things like this. But at the end, it's very rewarding. Yeah, very rewarding. So.
Well, now that Mr. Rodney Brown has come into the picture, I guess and he was just mentioned, we'll segue, but I do want to say that for Zenaida and for Barbara, I hope you'll understand that now that we have someone that is actually doing tutoring in our community, that we need to embrace that here, because our children need to see someone that looks like them, that's delivering the solutions that they need to have.
Yeah. Now, let me say this, because we just spoke Rodney up. And we're going to
Literally.
now transition this. The round table's gotten big enough to where we're going to be our first speaker up here on the stage.
Look at that.
So if you can go ahead and take your spot on the stage, Rodney. Rodney Brown is
I'll pass it over.
a phenomenal entrepreneur, a phenomenal construction person.
Pass
We
it
talk
right,
about the United Hood Nation.
Oops.
There's individuals
Oops,
in
sorry.
these streets, and maybe we can all kind of move our seats a little bit to kind of, wherever you want to sit is fine, but just so your back is not to it, so you can hear what he has to say. He has a company. He has a company called New Life Global Development. On up here. He has a company called New Life Global Development. I met Rodney at the Encounter Group, LA Trade Tech. As you start to see, that's a recurring theme. LA Trade Tech. LA Trade Tech Encounter Group. Phenomenal group of people. Brad Carson is a part of that group. You didn't get a chance to meet him yet, RT. He wasn't there. I don't think you heard him speak last week. But so much goes on there. But Rodney, I've learned, knows Norma Hollis, knows everybody I know that's doing something, he already knows them, and many more. This man, I could easily probably give you a half hour for him to speak, but whatever's in his heart, in the next 15 minutes, 10 minutes, however long it takes. Again, I'm gonna pick a date this week where he can really show you what he's doing. In fact, he can give you a tour into what he's doing, Brother Khalid. He can let you know and see that what he does every day. That's what I love about these individuals that are here. These are every day doing it right now, folks. Not talking about it. They bring in solutions, and if anybody wants to join in with them and what they have, he's doing. And so I'm gonna get out the way and let Rodney speak to the bullet points, to the main points, to what's in his heart, what he wants to share, and very much so, all in them streets, he has the credibility earned. And he might give you a little background of his family and some of that before even getting into LA.
So-
Go ahead.
Rodney, check to see if the microphone works first, please.
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
Nope.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
I don't need it.
Ballroom voice.
You don't need a mic, brother. well, thank y'all, man. You know, this any day that I get up and hit the floor is a blessing. This is all kingdom building work for me. Brother Kyle, it's good, always good to see you. Man, I can remember that event we had at UCLA. Man, you were phenomenal, brother. Man, everywhere you go, man, I just like to get and stay in that energy. My name is Rodney Brown. I'm an asset manager, real estate asset manager. And I'm from Chicago, been here since '95. Born and raised on the west side, moved to the south side, and then came out here, discovered this beautiful weather when it was 17 degrees below zero when I left Chicago. And I got out here, it was 72 degrees, and I wasn't the same. I went back to Chicago, all I can talk about was California. So I shut it down and moved out here, driving out here, listening to the Million Man March as I took the chief engineer's position. Environmental controls was my background. I've been in real estate all my life. My grandfather was chief engineer of like Kaiser Hospital, Foot Hospital in Michigan. My father was chief engineer of like Westfield Mall, he had mall, and my uncles all had residential apartment units. So after I finished my first project, which is building 300 and participating as an engineer to build 310 units on 35th Street, Cottage Grove, right at Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, Woodland Park Apartments, I then wanted to take that and I picked up stakes and moved to LA, and I went to this big black building at 84th and 84 Wilshire, and when they hired me, they rolled this guy out in this gold wheelchair and said, "Hey, this is your boss. His name is Larry Flint." I had no idea who that guy was. I thought it was Great Western Bank, the John Wayne statue outside, right? And I still was like, Larry Flint, I have no idea who this guy, till they showed me this Hustler magazine. So it started from there. My last project as an engineer was at UCLA, building the Student International Center on Gailey. And then I started studying asset management and just taking people that had problems with real estate and helping them to stabilize that real estate portfolio, not selling. So my whole mission is to go into the African American community and show them ways to make that asset perform so we don't sell. Most black people sell and stress because it's either falling down, they don't have any help, and then they get caught up in the foreclosure fraud and all of that. So I came through all of that. So I met with Mayor Garcetti and the city attorney's office, who wanted to look into how we can create an initiative for this homelessness. So this was about 7 years ago when they was first started trying to figure it out. So all the different people in Spot 6 and Spot 1, the service planning area, got together to try to put together that, and then what came out of it was Measure Triple H. And since then, we started looking at building accessory dwelling units, or some people term it affordable dwelling units, ADUs in your backyard. If you have a small house on a large lot now without many restrictions, you can build a structure in your backyard, not just a duplex or a fourplex, but something that would house 15 people and take them off the street So the city says now what we'll do is we'll pay $600 to $900 a month per bed if you can create a structure where it's like maybe 8 rooms on the bottom with 3 bathrooms and the same on the top, and you have 16 rooms times 650, 900, do the math. The only downside to that was the tax assessor said that he could not give, because we weren't changing the use or the zoning, he could not give us credit for that square footage of living space. So forget those pennies, we want the dollars, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's the main thing. And then to be compassionate enough to have everybody participate in trying to settle some of this homelessness. Because everybody well, first of all, everybody that's homeless doesn't want to be housed. So there's people out there that live that lifestyle. There's people out there that can't be found. There's a lot of people under protections. Everybody on that milk crate is not missing. That milk carton is not missing. So when I went out to Skid Row, I fed the homeless to try to talk to them and interview them, try to find out what is it that they want. Because everybody want to rush them and say, hey, we want to provide this for you, want to feed you and house you, but nobody really stopped to ask them what is it that they need,
Right.
you know, and how did they become homeless so we can start preventing this.
Right.
So as an asset manager, I brought my developers together who were building in places like Culver City and Santa Monica, and I asked them if they would come and bring that capital to the hood, if I could help them, show them that if we partnered with nonprofit organizations that could monitor and support and service the organizations of the population, different populations they serve, whether it's homeless U.S. veterans or foster youth, 16 to 24, or reentry clients, newly released offenders, and that sort of thing. Well, we need to be able to come up with a structure that would be able to give them those life skills that they need. Don't just put them in my building and walk away.
Right.
I can find the properties and find the vacant lots to start building permanent supportive housing in apartments, but before you just take them out the cardboard box or the tent or the shelter and put them in this unit,
Yeah.
how about getting them into some shared housing, 2 to a room,
Yeah.
you know, where the other service organizations can get to them and start providing those life skill services, job training, entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
you know, financial education and that sort of thing. So the city attorney said, well, Rodney, you need to do something first. So it was so frustrating trying to find developers to work with me or homeowners to work with me because I kept using the word homeless programs. And everybody think, oh, you just want to bring Skid Row into my building. So after praying and meditating on it for a while, I just had to be still and just listen to what God said, how he wanted me to flow with it. So what happened, I went downtown at 8th and Beacon, and there was a building that was boarded up, and I called one of my investors. They said they had been trying to get the property, but they knew who owned it. It was Mission Valley Bank. It was a 3-story structure, 8,000 square feet, 29 rooms, 9 bathrooms.
Wow.
And it had been boarded up for years. And the city had put the not open to the public sign up there and chained it off.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get anybody to talk to me at the bank because they had so many tire kickers by the time this black guy walks up and says, hey, I want to do something with your building. Yeah, right. You know, send us a check first and then maybe we'll answer your call. So I got frustrated. I parked outside of that building and I was looking at this homeless guy that was right outside the building, had a tent right there at 8th and Beacon between James Woods and 8th, right off of Union. Walking distance to LA Live. This guy is in this, and that was the last straw. I climbed over that fence. I went around the back. I kicked the window in. I crawled in the building, and I started taking photos inside. And I still have those photos. I'll show them to you one day. It was atrocious. I found out that it had been a transitional facility for dual diagnosis mental homeless individuals, and the organization folded because the director died and didn't have a key man structure. So when he died, no one had instructions to do anything, no one had authorization to go to the bank, write checks or anything. So it folded and they left 80 dual diagnosis patients in that building for 9 months with no medication and no supervision.
What?
So by the time one patient killed another one, the city attorney went in, took everybody out. A third of them went to church, a third of them went back to the street, and a third of them had to go back to prison at no fault of their own, but they were court ordered, so they had to go back. So the things that were written on the wall,
Tell about it.
Literally.
the things that they were thinking, had the way they were being attacked in their mind and in their spirit and being left with no care, and how where they felt the world had treated them was all over the wall. They popped the sprinklers and buckled all the hardwood floors. The plumbing didn't work for 5 months, and it was still like 40 people in there for 5 months with no plumbing. So it was really bad. So I went to some of my investors and said, listen, if I could get a nonprofit organization to partner with you to operate this, the numbers are this. The building, in my assessment, was still worth $1.6 million in its as-is condition. And the bank was being sued by the city attorney. So I asked the bank if they would sell us at a discount. So I figured, you know, just like the Persian Jews taught me, hey, if you don't insult them with your offer, you're not offering low enough, you're not the price, right? So knowing that it was worth 1.6, I asked them if they would sell it for $900,000. And they said, you give us a $50,000 non-refundable deposit in 72 hours, and you close in 15 days all cash, and we sell it to you for $950. I went back to my investors. They said, and they were like, Rodney, you kidding us, right? I said, no, meet me over there. So this time, I went to Home Depot, got me some chain bolt cutters, and I cut the county's lock off, and I cut the owner's lock off, and we went in that building, and they said, well, it's not our typical fix and flip, but we like the numbers. We like the numbers. So the calculations were, if I could get 74 people in there, the county was paying $750 per bed at 80 beds. So I called it, that's per month.
Per month. Wow.
So they were like, okay, they was like, let's do it. They signed shaking in their boots. Like, still, with all that spread, even if we failed, they would have made 23% return on their money. Wow. Even if we failed, they were still shaking in their boots. Well, the organization we wanted to hand it to, 3 weeks before we handed it to the building to them, the state shut them down for mismanaging funds. So now my investors are really panicking, right? They're really shaking in their boots. Rodney, we're not operators. How are we going to get these people? But the good thing about it was the shelter that was shut down was only 8 blocks away, and they had how many people staying in their place? 80 people. So they were able to pick up their bed and walk. It wasn't even 9 blocks down the street to a brand new place that I had taken at least 10 of them from that transition center to rehab this place with my crew. It's now called Beacon of Hope, and it's a 74-bed men's facility, bringing in 27% NOI. So they didn't want to sell. We found a CDFI, a Community Development Financial Institution, which is a community bank, to create a nonprofit, and then they named it Beacon of Hope because it's on Beacon. So then I'm like, yay, city attorney says, okay, great. So I was like, okay, now let's go do one for women. HUD says, no, we're not doing any more transitional housing. We're taking all the money away from transitional housing. Now it's only bridge housing, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, and then you're out. And then if you don't have your VASH voucher, if you're a veteran on Section 8, you have to start with another organization. So that being said, I stopped and I went back to my developers and said, now we have to do permanent supportive housing. They said, the only thing we want to fund now is permanent supportive housing. So after buying 38 buildings in the Haroni Investments portfolio to try to bring in people, I then started finding vacant lots. And I started marking out vacant lots that are in CD8 and CD9. So I went to Curran and Marquise, and to say, I want to build affordable housing in this neighborhood. Didn't get a whole lot of support, so I went to investors that could just bring up the cash, raise the capital, and then just buy right and don't worry about city support or anything like that. So I found 7 vacant lots. The first one is 83rd and Figueroa, right here, this 3-story building, brand new building at 83rd Street in Figueroa, a block from Kipp School. That's 37 units. We finished that in 2016. I did the ribbon cutting on my birthday, September 7th. And the second one is coming up now at Hyde Park Boulevard and West Ave. It's a 5-story big construction going on there. There's 51 units there. The third one is going to be at 61st and Crenshaw, where the train is in front across from that Taco Bell. That's going to be 124 units. And I just closed on 4 more vacant lots just within a 1-mile radius of where we're standing right now. The last one, which is 1950 Florence, which is 2 blocks east of Western, that big vacant lot on the south side of the street. There was a marijuana dispensary little thing on the vacant lot. I thought they was giving it away over there. It was like In-N-Out Burger over there last year. We had booted them out of there. Now we're ready to break ground. That's going to be 124 units there on Florence. So now that we have permanent supportive housing sort of on autopilot, we have to back up and now engage the community to start building these accessory dwelling units in the back. If you're losing your property to foreclosure, if you need additional income, the city will allow you to build that without parking restriction impact, without setback restrictions, and you could do a nice 5-6 figures by helping house this homeless. So the city and Mark Ridley Thomas, we got together, everybody created this Everyone In campaign to try to stave off, educate the community about homelessness, and also be able to get everybody involved. So in that, I'm looking for people that have real estate, that have distressed real estate, whether it's churches, private homeowners, people that need help. We need to redevelop our handiworker program. There's so many senior citizens, the children have left, and they don't have anyone to really go out and fix their plumbing or give them a new roof and that sort of thing. And there's at least 5,000 citizens right within walking distance of us right now that have the capital to pay us, but most time people rob them because they don't have anybody that care. They'll, contractors that are unlicensed will go up and take their material money and just bail because they're senior citizens. Then what they do, they just let fall down because they don't trust anyone. Right. So we have to do something. So I try to find a way, how do I get into, I had to find the different ways. So I went to the American Red Cross. I'm on the disaster. I think we were responsible for 30 house fires at night, every night here in LA. And the majority of the people that have to come to help those in our community come from Santa Monica, Torrance. I'm like, where's our people? Yeah. When you go to a Red Cross event, I think we're most like 2%, 3%. You see Asians, you see whites, you see Hispanics, everybody participating. Why aren't more black people getting involved? And so I wanted to look into what is it with that culture where we're not concerned with disaster preparedness and disaster readiness. So as I started to study basic rescue, and what I found is that when the disaster comes, nobody's coming to South Central. When they tell you buckle down for 3 days, 3 days of water until somebody get to come, that's like beach cities. Those are suburbs, we call them back in Chicago. South Central, Watts, Jordan Downs, there's a plan to shut down our community. So no one can get in or out. They don't even want first responders to get in and out. Nobody's coming for at least 30 days until a whole lot of other things are established, like security, the gang problem, but they're not seeing that. They call it zombie training. So they have that Caltech training to survive being in the zombie apocalypse, because they say it's for people that can't get to cigarettes. Forget about the crackheads and the people that's just, everybody's, smoking weed and need to. But what about those that just, imagine 20,000 people in one place that can't get to a cigarette. They've been smoking 30 years. How do you think they're gonna be after the third day? We better get ready. If we don't start getting a campaign to get in the African American community and start recruiting people to go and train with the American Red Cross for free, we're gonna die. They're not coming. They have, if you look at a place where there's a freeway, wherever there's a freeway and a railway crossing at the same time, you're gonna find K-railing staged there. And that's for a reason. That's so no ambulance or fire can get in to put any fires out of the ghetto. Not happening. It's gonna burn. No first responders are coming in and no one's driving out of our neighborhood. So these churches are totally unaware. So my whole thing today is let's start focusing on economic stability in our community by holding on to the real estate that we have, preserving it, finding ways to cash flow it, and then let's get our community ready for this next serious disaster that's going to happen at any second. So we all don't, so we can minimize the mortality or the casualty rate in our community. So I'm out building permanent supportive housing right now. I'm looking for those that want a joint venture. You don't have to sell your property. We can raise the capital together. I bring in engineers and my developers to build it. If we can go out and find senior citizens or people that are having distress problems with their assets, and we can help them, we can always create some sort of transaction, even if it was just a refi or something that would generate a referral fee to you. To do that, because everybody takes gas money and everybody has to eat just to get to try to create something. But start talking to your neighbors about their assets and real estate if they are interested in creating capital. And let's put together a team and go down to the American Red Cross and create our own chapter in our own neighborhood. Go get that training for free and start preparing our people for this disaster. My name is Rodney Brown. My company is New Life Global Development.
Okay, Rodney, could you, for those people could you give us your phone number or email address to reach you or website?
Yeah, I'll pass my cards around.
I meant to the people that are viewing around.
My number is 310-351-4631. That's New Life Global Development Corporation.
Okay.
Now, I want to say this. When I met Rodney at LA Trade Tech, that'd be 4, 5, 6 months ago when he first presented. I don't know how many times he's been back over there since then. But I saw the rubber meeting the road when I saw him. That's what I love. What I love about science, I love about doing stuff. We met 5, 6 times over the last month, 5, 6 weeks. We haven't even met in the last 2, 3 weeks. So for a period there, we met at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, with a gentleman named Wayne Fishbeck, who I met at LA Trade Tech. I wish he could be here. Ted Hayes, Nina Womack, some of the names that we've met with. And because when I went with him on a tour that he does, I don't know if we were the first ones that did it, but I know he's been doing it since. But it was the idea of see what he's done. I want you guys to really catch that part about Beacon of Hope. Because when he told the story, I've heard the story 3 or 4 different times. As he introduces himself to people, he has to give them some reality of who he is. We had in Carson, I think it was the first. And he didn't even tell you about the food piece of his life, which is a big piece. Like, I don't know how many, it's a big piece of how he feeds LA and the organization he's with. But the part that I really wanted to stress was what I heard at LA Trade Tech. Because he jumped over the fence, took the initiative. One thing I learned a long time ago is it's easier to get forgiveness sometimes than it is to get permission in life. There's that point sometimes where, should I do it, should I not do it? I'm not going to probably get permission, but I can get forgiveness. So you go ahead and do it. And this man, I watched that spirit in many venues, sports, stories, autobiographies, but I'm watching a live being that's challenging and doing things. And I'm watching the support come behind him. And these investors, that he was wise enough to position himself in a position, get ownership,
Can you hold this for me?
and then have the actual investors, you caught that part of the story, that when that went well, and they got, I don't know what percentage, 27% or coming on a monthly basis now, it's hard to get a 27% return on your money. And if you just go put it in the bank, maybe half 1% or something, I don't know. But the point is, they said, they gave him a green light to say, we need to do that again, because that's money, and there's housing. And so we have so many millions, if not more, of dollars for you, Rodney. If you can just find 2,000 units, 1,000 units, it's something along those lines. And he could share details about that. And that's what led to where the places he's talked about. Because he has the funding to go build units that these investors know are going to be fueled by government money at $600, $700, $800, $900 per unit, if they existed, that the government is going to pay whoever owns that land to house these homeless people. This is how much of a demand it is to fix Skid Row, to fix the homelessness issue. But along the way, he's got a setup that I learned that at his places where there's, over here on Hyde Park, 50-some units, I think.
51.
In September, they're going to have the groundbreaking ceremony in a month or so. I went to a spot over here on Vermont, I think.
Right, 37 years.
With a church.
Oh, the church.
The church.
That's Holy Temple.
Holy Temple. We went to another spot where right now it's up and functioning. How many units in that spot?
37 units on that.
Yes, 33rd and 5th. I had to see for myself what this looked like in real time. And then he's calling me and saying things and telling me we need some more interest. We need to build more because we got money. We just need a unit built. We need property. We need church members. We need pastors. We need that have property to give us the okay to build some units and they can get cash flow. Because it's, and not only that, in this unit, there's a whole mental assistance kind of thing that has to go along with that program. How to handle these individuals, programs to put in place, correct me if I'm wrong, programs that he has to develop to help these individuals.
Especially veterans right now. Any veterans in the house? Any
Anybody
veterans?
know any veterans?
Well, okay, thank you, sir, for your service. Which branch?
Army.
Okay, Army as well. Army as well.
I was
The V-
raised that.
Is that all right? Army branch. All right, Army branch count two. They count two. So the VA recently contacted our group now that we have physicians and doctors in our group and asked us if we could start providing health care and housing for veterans. So we said, yeah, I mean, we would just include them into the whole mix. And so they said, well, we need drug and alcohol treatment for them as well. So once we got licensed to do the drug and alcohol treatment, they're asking us to expand into our housing. So now we have 61 beds. We have 10 mansions. 8 of them are in Altadena, Pasadena area, and 2 are in Antelope Valley, Lancaster, Palmdale. And so once we did that, the VA gave us a contract for 30, 60, 90 days to do drug and alcohol treatment at $2,400 a day. So we've now ramped up and we need all the help we can get right now because we were, that whole billing system is a whole new, creature, and then doing intake, get better calling every day. We're in Region 5, so we can do everything from Arizona all the way up to Washington, Hawaii. We can service them with a TV or a choice.
Let me, and he'll be back. Let me say this. The opioid crisis that's getting attention nationally, not international. There's an agreement there that says this is not the best way to go. But there's not many entrepreneurs or individuals that are outside of business as usual doing So what happened? In the absence of Rodney, this is what keeps happening. Because there's no other alternative in place that is working. He, as an entrepreneur, I realize, has a lot of leeway in setting up the program. You see, so I think about Let's Be Whole, Nina Womack, who has the Way to Happiness book, and she's out at Long Beach Jazz Festival right now, bringing Let's Be Whole and alternative medicine and just all of the elements of Let's Be Whole that go along with that, eating better, so on and so forth, mental health, whatever she does, yoga, you know, there's so many things, but all of those will work better than just dope them up with some opioids, which is what business do, and foster care, and so many things that are just, like Rodney's saying, see, to me, you gotta have certain individuals that understand the problem and are doing something about it. And what I'm telling you is they need to be known much more, and it's not something that he has to worry about being supported, because it's backed by those good intentions in the government that are trying to solve the problem. There's some of those. But if they don't have an insight from individuals that are out in the trenches, they can't solve the problem. They don't have enough wherewithal to even, they're not in the trenches. They don't live in these neighborhoods. And they do go home to nice neighborhoods, come back to their jobs and try to figure it out, and they go back home. The people that are in the trenches come together and create. That's what is missing. That's what I see is happening. Is that, Brother College Shaw, you know, that's, I know you know sources and things. And it's just, I've always known for a long time. It's just the good ones don't know the other. And therefore, they're one up against 50. Or they're 2 or 3 up against 1,000. But when these 2 or 3 unite, and these all come together, now there's 100 organizations. Now then they say, okay, good, that body will stroke a check. Go ahead, here's 30 million, here's 50 million. Y'all go ahead and make that happen, right? And that's what I'm seeing. That inspires me. And I'm looking out here, and I know just from this group, who we're all connected to, oh man, we've got it all handled. And so he's going to be speaking later this week. Hopefully, you know, he can let me know when there can be an hour, 2 hours just about that. And we can let everybody that we know, whoever couldn't make it, you know, they can come and learn about that. Pastors, people in the community, homeowners. And there's a lot more details. Because I know, like anybody doing good work, you need more help. If you had more of a base that was following your instructions, and you knew what needed to happen, you could do so much more. Correct me if I'm wrong, because there's a system that's working. But I know he could use another 10 dedicated hands that would really allow everybody involved to do so much more. Yes, sir. You know, and so that's kind of my thoughts about Rodney. Who have we not heard from it? 2 gentlemen just walked in from San Diego. Pedro, you want like my ace in the hole. You my man on deck.
However, because I have to leave soon, perhaps Pedro could come up now because he would be.
Come on up here.
Yeah, please.
And hopefully, we gotta take a picture. We do it now, because then you guys gotta see your day. Let's get the picture in, because those that have to leave have to leave.
Oh, there.
Let's do it up here. Let's do it up here. San Diego, come on up here. More the merrier. And this 2nd anniversary of the United Nation Commemoration Day. Barros and they, please come on up here. Thank you and the whole be there. Halim Shaw was here. Go ahead. We're back in Hawaii, man. My brother's showing up here. Rodney. Yes.